I know. The last time I did a series of launch videos like this, I pitched you a book called The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need.
I'm a little confused. In fact, didn't your publisher give you a 2-book deal?
As we announced the second book, the comments came pouring in. Some of you said, "You can't write another book on sales. You said this was the only sales guide I was ever gonna need."
You are not playing with a full deck here, because you got a 2-book deal. And what's up with that?
How can you call your book The Only Sales Guide?
Some of you decided to name the new book for me, deciding that it should be called The Only Other Sales Guide You'll Ever Need, and I really, really mean it this time. Clever, but I promise the name is a non-starter with the publisher. All of this was in good fun, and I enjoyed getting my chops busted by friends and colleagues and clients. That's the price you pay for having a provocative title. Now for my confession. When Portfolio reached out to me to inquire about the first book, I pitched them the second book at the very same time. I knew then that the material covered in Book 2, The Lost Art of Closing, needed to be covered, and I knew I wanted to write that book myself. Mike Weinberg was busy publishing Sales Management Simplified. Joe Conrath was out with More Sales, Less Time, a killer book that hasn't gotten the attention it deserved. Dave Brock was writing The Sales Manager's Survival Guide. Mark Hunter was publishing High Profit Prospecting, and Jeb Blunt had just published Fanatical Prospecting, which turned out to be the Harry Potter of sales books, and he was doubling down writing his magnum opus, Sales EQ. There are a lot of great books on sales that have been written over the last few years, many of them by my close friends. But in the area of closing, this hasn't been touched in a big way in a long, long time. Plus, no one had ever shared anything like the framework in The Lost Art of Closing, book number 2. In fact, no one touches the subject anymore, and almost no one trains salespeople to close anymore. We've gotten away from teaching people how to close, and the content isn't there. It simply doesn't exist. No one has developed an approach that makes sense for B2B sales professionals who sell today. The closing language that you find in books today not only won't serve you, it will embarrass you, and it will actually repel clients away from you. In fact, in The Only Sales Guide, I have a quote at the beginning of every chapter and reading recommendations at the end, except chapter 11, the chapter on closing. There was no quote that felt right to me, and there were no books that I could recommend. I'm not saying anything bad about the closing books that have come before this. You know, the ones that the greats wrote. But they wrote techniques that worked at a different time, in a different era, and under wildly different circumstances. The economy is different. Buyers have more access and more choices. They're more sophisticated, and we've grown up too. We're more consultative, more professional than ever. Our relationships are even more important now than at any other time. Look, Zig Ziglar would exceed all of us in this field were he to have come up selling in this environment. So would Brian Tracy, and so would Tom Hopkins. They were masters of their time, and I would argue that they would be the masters now. They figured out the keys to success when there was very little research and nowhere near the money being invested in training and development like there is now. They did the work to learn what works in the field, and that's why what they taught worked then. I don't believe any of the masters would be nostalgic about the good old days. They'd be leading the field, or one or all of them would have written a book like this one. I would have been the first one to buy it too had Zig Ziglar written something like this. So there's this major gap in content around the very first and fundamental of all sales skill sets, and that skill is closing, or what I call commitment gaining. I started studying closing in 1993 after reading Neil Rackham's first book, Spin Selling. In that book, Rackham described one of the main differences between successful salespeople and those who weren't quite as successful. And the difference had nothing to do with the questioning methodology that makes up the book. It had to do with the fact that they gained what Rackham called an advance, a commitment that moved the deal forward in some way, and an agreement to which the prospective client could commit to, not the final ask. Less successful people settled for what Rackham called a continuation. The client, regardless of the words they used, agreed to no next step. Maybe you've left a client meeting with a continuation when your client says, "Thanks so much for sharing that with us. It's very impressive. We'll talk it over here and get back to you." Hey, that doesn't sound so bad, does it? Except they don't get back with you. Instead, they go dark. How about this one? "Can you call me in 2 weeks so we can get back together?" They want you to call them. That's good, right? You know it's not good. Am I calling your prospective clients a liar when I say that they really don't want you to call them in 2 weeks? No, because I would never say anything like that. But you know in your heart of hearts that you're going straight to voicemail when you call back, and your email is going to sit in their inbox for weeks and months. Right now, you have emails that haven't been answered and voicemails that haven't been returned because you have prospects that have gone completely dark. They're not lying to you. They're avoiding making commitments, and they're being polite about it. My friends at CEB, Nick Toman and Brent Adamson, wrote the foreword to The Lost Art of Closing. Their research validates and explains what we're experiencing in the field right now.
In many ways, the single biggest challenge we have today is not selling better, but helping our customers buy better.
There are more people involved in decisions. It was 5.4 a few years ago, and now it's 6.8. And I'm not sure how you have a 0.4 or a 0.8, so let's round it up. That's 7 people in a deal on average. Now you know why it's so hard to get commitments. Their research also shows that buyers are having a tough time making decisions, and it's because they don't all agree on what needs to be done, how it should be done, when it should be done, and who they should work with. So instead of doing what's necessary, they do nothing. They avoid making commitments completely.
So we've got to find ways to bring those individuals together, help them understand common problems, and then common courses of action if they're going to get together to make a big buying decision and work with us ultimately.
And it turns out that giving them more information only confuses them more. When they do buy, they regret it because they're still unsure of the decision. This means that we must change what we do as consultative salespeople and as people who hope to be called a trusted advisor. We have to control the process. That doesn't mean we have to use self-oriented hard sell tactics. It also doesn't mean we have to use seriously smarmy old school tie downs. Mr. Smith, you do love your wife and your children, don't you? And Smith says, why, yes, of course I do. You do want your family to be taken care of should anything happen to you, do you not? Yes, I do. You do need to make sure that you've left them in a position to have the life you want for them, don't you? Smith, with his head down, is going to say, yes. Then I'm just going to need you to sign right here so that you can do your duty by your family. Smith probably would have signed the contract, but he wouldn't feel good about it. Would his family have been better off with an insurance policy? No doubt they would. But could the salesperson have done this without making Smith regret ever letting this horrible salesperson in his house? Well, if they had this book, they could have. You may not believe that anyone ever used tie downs like that, but you'd be wrong. This is what salespeople were routinely taught, and it's one of the reasons that the word sales has a negative connotation. There's also a reason that there are laws that allow consumers to rescind a contract within 3 days. These laws were literally put in place to protect the consumer from aggressive salespeople who use tie downs and tactics like this. The world of sales has changed. It's all grown up now. B2B sales professionals work as peers, as trusted advisors, as integrated members of our clients' teams. We help our clients produce better results they couldn't easily produce without us. We lead with insights, and we own the outcomes we sell, and we're business people playing a critical role in our companies and for our clients. If this is you, you can't afford to use self-oriented approaches that literally destroy trust. You can't use language that attempts to manipulate or coerce your clients into doing anything. You put the relationship before the transaction, and by doing so, you position yourself to win. This is the opposite of what was taught in the past and what you find in almost every book on closing. I wrote The Lost Art of Closing to close this gap. I wrote it to create content that companies and their sales force can use to gain the commitments they need to help their clients and their dream clients produce the better results that they need. I wrote this book for the catalysts, the instigators, the agitators, and the change agents so they could make a greater difference. While you're here, complete the form below to download the intro and a sample chapter. We'll notify you when the second video becomes available here. If you bought my first book, The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need, you know that that book is really a competency model. It's a giant framework that I developed to help salespeople improve themselves and their results. And it's a manual for sales managers to understand where a salesperson has some deficiency that's preventing them from producing the results they're capable of. The workbooks and the 17 video modules makes The Only Sales Guide a training program that many companies purchase to use as part of their onboarding and development. This book, The Lost Art of Closing, Winning the 10 Commitments That Drive Sales, is another development program wrapped up into book form. Combined with the bonus content, it too is another development product for salespeople and sales organizations to use to develop, coach, and train their sales force. More still, early readers of the galley copy have used the book to actually redefine their sales process. If you followed me for any time, you know I'm not going to tread lightly into a book launch. The last campaign featured 3 videos that tell the story of the book and of course allowed me to pitch you the book. Hey, I'm a sales guy. How could you buy a book on closing from someone who's afraid to pitch you or ask for the deal? I'm asking for the deal. When you believe in your product or service, you want to put it in people's hands, don't you? That's what we do, we gain commitments. You also know I'm not going to sell you the book without offering you some serious bonuses, so check out the pre-orders below. And if you need something special, reach out to me and we'll put something together for you. Thanks for spending your time with me, and I'll see you back here for video number 2.
Anthony, don't worry about it. When we publish The Lost Art of Closing, nobody's even going to remember that you did a book called The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need, and nobody is certainly going to bust your chops over it.
The only sales guide you'll ever need? Come on. Who talked you into that?